Hello, guys. Welcome back to Life in Life, this amazing YouTube podcast where we talk about life experiences, life issues, and life lessons. This is a space that has been created for us to have open, curious, and meaningful conversations that help us to understand life better and maybe elevate the quality of our decisions. So, before we get into this, I just want to put out a disclaimer. First of all, everything that I say on this YouTube channel is not right until you tell me that this is your experience and that this has actually happened to you. That is when it becomes right or correct. Okay, so I'm not projecting anything, I'm just trying to unpack things from my point of view at this particular time and space that I'm in order just to help us understand whether the experiences, first of all, we're having are experiences that all of us are having, and number two, how we can navigate those situations and experiences. Okay, so welcome to episode 2. Was it episode 2 or episode 3? This is episode 3. Yeah, so episode 1 was introduction. Episode 2, we are talking about self-love, and you're saying that self-love isn't gender biased. Welcome to episode 3. In episode 3, we are talking about relationships with friends and other people. And the topic for this particular episode is that what is the opportunity cost of bad friendships? What is the opportunity cost of bad friendships? So, as we get into this, let's begin by first hearing a story about lobsters. Today I'm going to start with a story about animals. Let's put this down. So there are animals called lobsters. These are crustaceans. Yes, crustaceans, and they are sea animals. So essentially what they do is they live at the bottom of the sea. And what happens, I think you might have seen lobsters, maybe if you haven't interacted with them physically, they're just like they're crustaceans. You know what crustaceans look like. So they have an outer shell, they're red in color, and then they have like the claws, right? So these are lobsters and they live at the bottom of the sea. And what happens is that every single lobster needs its own space to survive at the bottom of the sea. It needs its own space, its own base. Let's call it that. It needs its own base of operations. So it needs somewhere where it can scavenge for food, where it can maybe find some leftovers from whatever the bigger fish are eating at the higher on in the sea, and what drops now down they can scavenge for that. So they need an area where they can scavenge, right? Number two, they need an area where they can be able to hunt for food. So the small animals that are there that can be hunted by the lobster, they need an area where there's adequate amount of those prey that they can hunt. Number three, they need a space where they can be able to raise, say, for example, their families and get sexual partners. So there are very finite areas and spaces where lobsters can occupy. And in certain times, you might find that one or two lobsters are competing for the same space or are in the same area. They want to inhabit the same home, but unfortunately, only one of them has to win that particular situation and occupy that home. So, what happens when maybe let's say two lobsters are looking to occupy the same home at the same time, or even hundreds of lobsters are looking to operate or to just get like a small space of sea level land for them to be able to occupy. So they go about this process in a very rigorous rigorous way, right? So essentially what happens is the strongest, the healthiest, and the biggest of the lobsters are able to fight their way to get the most prime spots, the spots with the good scavenge food, the spots with the adequate amount of prey, the spots with the, they have access to dating options. So you have a lot of female friends in that area. In that area code, there are a lot of opportunities, right, for sexual partners and all that and all that. So essentially, the biggest lobsters, the healthiest lobsters, the lobsters that say in a fight would be able to hold their ground and their weight and win that particular confrontation, are the ones who are able to occupy the best, the plush, the beautiful areas where they can get a lot of food, they can get a lot of partnership access, they can be able to get maybe safety away from predators that also hunt them, and they can be able to feel safe and say raise a family within that particular space, right? So this in its sense brings a whole new understanding of how animals coexist, right? So scientists, through studying the lobster, have been able to understand how their neural pathways work in response to how they occupy their space, right? And they've come to understand that that order, that system of the strongest, the biggest, the healthiest lobsters being able to defend and occupy the best accommodation areas, and the weakest, the less healthy, the stressed, the less strong lobsters occupying these other areas, these low quality areas, right? As compared now to this healthy big one, right? So they occupy they are the windbreakers, quote unquote. You remember in high school you used to have those people who slept there on the door. They're the windbreakers. And even in that sort of scenario, you had maybe, let's say, the Form 1 sleeping at the door and then the Form 4 sleeping where it's coziest. There was a system, and this system is a form of a hierarchy. So all animals have a form of hierarchy, and they exist within hierarchies within their societies, starting with the lobster. Now let's look at another animal, the birds. If you have chicken at home, something very interesting that you're going to find is that they have a pecking order. If you are very keen to look at barn, more so free range chicken, and you just like pour food and observe them, they have a pecking order. The biggest, the strongest ones are going to eat first, and then the second biggest, second strongest, second healthiest, and then it goes that way up to the bottom where now you have the weakest, the least healthy hen now is the one that now gets the scraps, whatever has been left behind by the predecessors. So this is a very interesting scenario for us to understand, because it helps us to put into frame the idea that we live in hierarchies. As animals, we live in hierarchies. Go watch Nat Geo, even when the pride of lions is hunting and eating, for example. The lioness might be the one that hunts down the animal, the prey, but it's always the lion, the leader of the pack, that is the first to eat, right? And why is it that way? Because as animals, we exist in hierarchies. There's a certain setting, there's a certain factory setting at the back of our mind that helps us to understand and to see and to assess, always and constantly assess the environment that you are in order to help us understand where we exist within the hierarchy, within that environment, right? So for animals, that is more defined, because for them they live in such a primitive, quote unquote primitive way of existence, right? So animals don't have mortgages, animals don't have careers, animals don't have neighborhoods, right? Animals just exist within the space that they are in. Then they are just doing life. They're just living their best life. So they have hierarchies within those societies that they live in. If it's lions within their pride, they have a hierarchy. If it's chicken within their barn, they have a hierarchy. If it's lobsters at the bottom of the sea, they have their hierarchy. So from birds to fish to all pack animals to wolves to lions to human beings have hierarchies within their societies. This is very important, first of all, for us to just grab and understand that we as human beings live in hierarchies. First of all, as human beings. And the thing about hierarchies is this is not just something that comes as a by the way. This is not something that just, it's a programming that comes after everything else has been done and said. This is actually a programming that is drilled into us so far back that it was instituted in our minds before we had emotions and even before we could think. So it's pre-emotional and it's pre-cognitive. That timer, that thing at the back, and it's at the bottom of our head. I don't know whether it's called I don't want to embarrass myself. Yeah, it's just somewhere around here, where our neck ends and our head begins. There's that setting that helps us understand where we exist as animals within the hierarchy of our societies, right? But now let's move away from now the primitive animals and move to human beings. So as human beings, we've been able to create very complex hierarchical systems. So we have hierarchies within our social lives, we have hierarchies within our economic lives, and we have hierarchies within our political lives. So if you look at, say, people within your society today, you're going to see people living, number one, in different neighborhoods. That is a form of social hierarchy. You're going to find people who earn different amounts of income, for example, and who are able to accommodate different levels of lifestyles, right? That is an economic hierarchy. And we also have people who, for example, are within that political space. You might find people who are MCAs, people who are MPs, people who are vice presidents, people who are presidents. So essentially, there's also a political hierarchy. So we have so many hierarchies, and not just these three, there are so many other hierarchies, even within our relationships, within our families, within our societies, within our cultures. We have so many hierarchies. And that is very important for us to realize, right? Because today we are talking about friendships, and we are talking about the opportunity cost of having bad friendships. But even before we go there, let's just start by discussing. Can we just be open and honest? And I'll put this across. I don't know whether this has happened to you, but I've really found it difficult to make friends after I finished. Now in Kenya, we have the 844 system that is now being moved to the back as CBC comes to the front, right? But I have found it very difficult to make friends after that point where my routinized education ended. You get? So it was, since, for example, someone finishes university, it becomes so difficult for you to have friends. So you keep losing friends, and you don't seem to make friends within that same capacity that you're losing them. So it's very often that you find now adults or people who are adulting in that space of, God, I don't have as many friends as I thought. God, I am having friendship insufficiency. You know, you're like, oh my God, I have very few friends. I'm struggling to make new friends, and I don't understand why, right? So the first thing that has helped me to sort of decipher this particular situation is the fact that when we were in routinized education, think about 844. So you had to go to class every single day. If it's a weekday, you had to go to class every single day. There are a group of people that you're meeting over and over and over again every single day. So there's a routine, there's a rhythm, there's a gel that puts you guys together and exposes you to different situations, but with the same group. So you sort of bond and grow with these people. That is why, for example, in high school, you guys would have probably never befriended everyone in your class. But 20 years after high school, if you meet anyone in your class anywhere in the world, they are instantly like your best friend, because they're like, oh my God, I know this person. There's a certain level of vulnerability that we've shared with this person that sort of solidifies our relationship to a certain level. So it's very interesting for us to understand that the fact that we have been pulled now out of that routine of seeing someone every single day, of going to lunch with the same person every single day, of going to class with the same group of people every single day, now we've been pulled out of that, and we've been put in a situation where maybe you might be going to work every single day, maybe you're meeting a certain group of people there, but you don't feel comfortable with, say, befriending or getting into a romantic relationship with the people from that space. Right? So now you often go into interaction spaces, but you don't do it as frequently as you used to with class. So for example, you might go to church, you might go to certain other areas, which is sort of depicting the same sort of structure, but in less frequency. So you go to church once a week, right? You meet with the same people over and over and over again. You go to the mosque once a week, say, and you meet the same people over and over again. So there's still some structure, only that the frequency has reduced. Now let's look at other areas where we don't actually share that structure. So even work. You have the same structure, maybe the frequency is more, but not as much as it used to be in class, right? Because in class, you had the same person from morning to evening, but at work, you have someone from another department who you might see just during maybe work meetings or something of that sort. So essentially, we have grown into spaces that are not frequently bombarding us as much as we used to. And it is through this bombardment that we created relationships with people that enabled us now to grow into friends. Does that make sense? So these are people who we were going to discuss, for example, class terminologies together. We are going to discuss class exams and cards together. These are people who we are going to discuss the lecturer together. We're going to discuss the trainer together. We're going to discuss the training content together. But now you're going out, say, for brunch, and you're meeting like one person once a month. You're going out for church, you're meeting the same group of people 4 times a month. You're going to whatever space that you go into, but it's not as frequently as you used to. So that pace at which we used to share our lives in order for us to find that harmony and become friends has now reduced. So now, if we are moving at an 80 kilometers per hour at making friends in school, now we are at like 30 kilometers per hour at making friends, because you are now in the adulting space. You understand yourself better and you understand the people around you better. And so you are more keen to pick out people who you see don't fit into whatever you're looking for. And now it becomes more difficult for you to find people who get this, are within your hierarchy, that you can be able to connect to. You can feel that whatever situations they're going through, I can relate. Whatever challenges they're facing, I can relate. Whatever difficulties they're having, I can relate. And I'll give you an example. So in essence, if you think about like a small village or like a small town, where say there's a small number of people, maybe a couple of hundreds or a few thousand people, and within this small town or village, even how people live is very close to each other. So for example, one house is only separated from the other house by say 1 meter. So essentially, wherever you're seated or wherever you are in your house, you can probably hear whatever is going on in your neighbor's house when that voice or noise gets to a certain level, right? So you are such a close-knit environment where you understand everyone. You understand your environment, you understand your neighbor's environment. You understand who your neighbor is, where they work, their structure of career. You understand the structure of relationships and the structure of their own society. So this is the chief, this is the DO, this is the provincial commissioner, this is a police officer, this guy is a teacher, this guy is the wife to so and so, this lady is also maybe, for example, an accountant, this lady is a manager here, this lady is a CEO there. So you understand each other's you understand each other in relationship to each other. So within a small community which we used to live in back in the day, we had a certain form of structure. So and so is so and so's child, so and so is so and so's wife, so and so is so and so's husband, so and so is so and so's son, so and so is so and so's daughter. So we had a structure that was very understandable, right? But within now this environment that we've put ourselves into in the modern adulting age, we've come to find that there are so many hierarchies that now intertwine and we meet with each other. But the thing is, we have sort of now moved from that space where we used to gain identity from our structure, from being someone's son or someone's daughter or someone's uncle or someone's nephew. You have moved from that environment to an environment where you're determined by your social hierarchies, your economic hierarchies, and your political hierarchies, and so many other hierarchies. So essentially, we find it more difficult to find people who we can relate to, either people who understand our structure or people who we feel that we are in the same structure with, or even people who we feel that relate to whatever we are going through, even if they are not in our structure of hierarchy, right? So this makes us become more choosy when we are trying to find the people who we can actually relate to, people who are within our own hierarchies. You get? And that in itself, I think is the issue we need to look at, because I feel like as a culture, we've existed for such a long time by defining the fact that we need to create relationships across, on that same level, on the same hierarchical level. We need now to create relationships across that hierarchy. And we've seen that even through how we've come up, for example, in our educational system. So if you are in grade 1, most of your friends are in grade 1. If you're in grade 2, most of your friends are in grade 2. If you're in grade 7, most of your friends are in grade 7. It would be odd or sort of unusual for you to have someone who is a friend. You're in grade 7 and you have a friend who's in grade 6, you have a friend who's in grade 8, it's common, but it's sort of unusual, right? It's like, oh, so that's my brother, oh, so that's my sister, oh, that's a friend to my sister, that's a friend to my brother, that's a friend to someone I know, that's my nephew, that's all that, right? So in most cases, we have been cultured to find friendships along the same plane, along the same hierarchical level, right? But this in itself has its own set of advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages is that you can be able to find people who you can relate to. You find people who are going through the same challenges you're going through. You find people who are going through the same difficulties you're going through. You find people who are going through the same growth phases as you are. You find people who are going through access to the same level of opportunities that you have. So essentially, you feel very comfortable within that area, within that range of people within your hierarchy, right? But one thing that I'm coming to understand is that there are also disadvantages of making friends within the same hierarchy, right? So moving back, just even before we get into the disadvantages, let's look at the advantages. So number one, you find someone who understands the situation that you're going through, because that is what they themselves are going through. So you feel seen. Number two, you might find someone who's empathetic enough and conscious enough to understand what you're going through and to award you empathy. And now you feel heard, right? And number three, this person has probably sort of gone through the same thing as you are going to go through. So in some essence, there's a certain level of like awareness and advice that they can also give you based on the fact that there are situations that you've both gone through that they can seek advice from their experience and share into your own perspective. And at the same time, they might be a little bit ahead of you in some certain spaces, and they might offer you advice and guidance when it comes to certain situations that you're not there yet, but they've just sort of crossed by that line a few moments past, right? So it's a very beautiful space that we live in when you make friends within your hierarchies, because you guys have probably the same naturalization activities. So you're probably earning around the same range, you're probably having around the same hobbies, you're probably enjoying around the same activities, you have the same interests, you have the same maybe mental space in terms of growth and in terms of awareness and in terms of consciousness and presence and futuristic thinking, right? So this is your squad, these are your peoples, these are people who you feel like, yeah, they are family, we are all going through the same thing at the same time, maybe a little bit variable, but we are still there, we are a plane and we are flying, we are cruising nicely. We are cruising nicely, we are on the same altitude, sort of, one maybe juu kidogo, another maybe chini kidogo, but we are on the same altitude range. We are cruising nicely. God. Anyway, so yeah, this is me goofing myself up. Anyway, so making friendships has become difficult as we have grown into the adulting space, because now we have been thrown into a space where the hierarchies are just spread across the place. You are in a matatu, you are talking to someone who's you are hearing someone who's a contractor talk on the phone, you're also hearing someone who, let's say, does laundry on the phone. You're hearing the conductor on the phone, you're hearing the driver on the phone, talking to the owner of the matatu on the phone. So essentially, you are with people, you have been integrated with people from different levels of the different hierarchies. And it's very important for us to understand this because it I would love to bring awareness to the idea that maybe, just maybe, maybe, there are certain disadvantages to operating life from a point of view that I only need to make friends with people along this same plane that I'm on. And I'll give you an example. So there's a time that back in my campus years, there's a time that I was just spending time with a friend, right? So I was just coming off work, I met with a friend, and we were just sitting at a movie shop. And as our movies were being loaded onto our storage device so that you can go watch, a lady, a lady who seemed to be a little bit older than us, not too old, just like 3 5 years maybe, older than us, and she was driving a BMW X1. And I remember my friend, and this conversation really sticks with me. I remember my friend saying that, man, look at that chick, man. Hey, she is on another level. She lanes, man, lanes. We'd love to really just like converse with someone like this, but we can't. And I was like, yeah, so you go talk to her then. But he was like, nah, nah. And I was curious to understand. So why wouldn't you talk to this lady if you're particularly interested in her? And he said, well, she's driving. Mimi, have you seen Futsubishi, bro? Futsubishi, bro. So have you seen that I do not have a car key? So what conversation are we going to have with this person? Obviously, she's out of my league. So what conversation are we going to have with this person? Really, really, are we going to talk about how matatus are stressful? Are you going to talk about how, obviously, probably she's not in school. So what are we talking about? What are we actually going to have a conversation about, right? And this really hit home for me because I was like, okay, so, but this person got to the level that they are at in life, having gone through what you went through at a certain time and space. So, what if you went to them and had a conversation with them and actually, through their experience, got to learn how they got to where they are and lessons that you can pick from that to help you get to where you're going, even if it's a day sooner, right? But that in itself had not dawned on us up to that point. We're just like, oh, out of our league, cancel that, next, let's move on, right? It has happened so many times, and I wish to place this particular challenge on you guys. If you have friends, and more so for men, try and see this. If you see say a lady who's way more successful than you, and it's evident even from the onset that this lady is more successful than you, how would you feel about approaching this lady? First things first. Not that we have any myths that we're trying to break or we have any misconceptions we're trying to solidify. We're just trying to see, in essence, are we the only ones who are going through this thing? Are we the only ones who are just like, she's driving? It would be difficult for me to talk to that one. You know, so is this something that other people also experience? Even for ladies, is this something that you experience, making friendships with people who are more successful than you being difficult, right? Or who are at a more advanced stage in life? So success doesn't have to mean just money. It can be someone who has a family and you're looking to get to that space sometime. It can be someone who has a mortgage and you're looking to get to that space sometime. It can be someone who has a successful career to a certain level and you're looking to get there sometime. So has it been difficult for you to conceptualize the idea of you having a platonic friendship or even a romantic relationship with this person who's out of your hierarchy? And why is that? So it was very intriguing for me now to be in this live space where I'm seeing that happen, and I'm seeing the conditioning of, well, the programming that we've had throughout our lives come into play. Now I'm seeing someone who sees the potential in someone else, but just because this other person is not in their hierarchy, they're feeling very difficult to go talk to approach this person, to sort of bridge a relationship or a friendship with this person. And it's a very interesting thing, and to some extent it's also a bit sad, right? Because now think about all this missed knowledge and wisdom and value that you'll have lost just because you disqualified yourself for that friendship with that person. Think about all the ideas, all the advice, all the elevating information that you get from someone who is from another hierarchy than you. Think about all the intriguing things that you never actually come to learn. And this is the actual disadvantage with making friends and relating to people who are just on your hierarchical level. There's nothing new that you guys are bringing to the table. There are no new big picture thinking ideas or mindsets that you guys are like exposing to each other, unless you guys are like avid learners or readers or something of that sort. But in most cases, there's no new information that you're sharing. All of you are going through the same level of life. All of you are going through the same challenges, the same situations, everything is same for you guys. All you're having is just like from different perspectives, but it's on the same plane. What if you got someone who has elevated themselves to a higher level? They are from a higher hierarchy or a lower hierarchy, and you're just getting to like learn from them. Good or bad, positive or negative, you are learning. You're just like absorbing the lessons from this person's experience and from where they are at in life. But it's through our programming, through our culturing, that we've made it so difficult for us to conceptualize the idea of one person from one hierarchy making a friendship with another person from another hierarchy. And that has now blended into a metamorphosis of so many other myths and preconceptions of how we now see life, right? So we have not qualified ourselves to have friendships and relationships with people from different hierarchies, and now we move into judging other people who we see doing that. And that judgment comes from a point of us feeling that we are less than. We are how can I put this? We are judging other people based on the negativity that we feel for the limitations that we've put upon ourselves. So you might be at a restaurant and you see this very young chick with a middle-aged man, and there are just, you have scenarios in your head of, I know this is what is going on, I know this is what is going on, I know this is what is going on. And maybe sometimes that is not what is going on. And even in this society that we live in today, let's just dive into the brutal, honest truth. If you see a 20-something-year-old lady with a 60-something-year-old guy, and they're somewhere at Java or at cafe or this nice places, just sitting having a conversation, what is the first thing that would come to your mind about the relationship dynamic between those two people? Let's be honest. There would be question marks, right? Let's not project, but there would be question marks. Very heavy question marks. Very heavy question marks. You'd be like, why? Doesn't balance. This song. There's some imbalance in how I am perceiving this particular relationship, because I see someone from this particular hierarchy. I don't see how they can be blending with someone from another hierarchy unless they're related, unless this is their boss, unless this is their father or uncle, or yeah, you can't just have like, this is an individual who's a friend to this other individual, and they're just like having a good, honest conversation. Think about that for a minute. If you see a young guy, someone who's in his 25, 20, maybe mid 20s, and you see that person with an older lady who's like, let's say 50, and they're somewhere like a nice hotel, they're just seated having a conversation. what would come to your mind? Like, what would be the first two scenarios that you think about in your mind about the dynamic of their relationship? It would be very sketchy and dingy, right? So there'd be a lot of question marks there as well. Why? Because you're seeing one person from clearly one hierarchy interacting with someone from a different hierarchy, and since you have limited yourself against such situations and friendships, you're also projecting that on other people and you're judging them based on limitations that you've placed upon yourself. So this can be a young boy or girl who's now sitting down to get advice from their lecturer. This can be a boy or girl who's just sitting down to get advice from their preacher or their pastor from church. This can be a small a young lady or a young gentleman who's just sitting here getting advice from someone who they met off the blue. Maybe they were traveling or something, and this person has grown to become a very valuable source of wisdom, knowledge, advice, perspective, mindset, and so many other valuable input, right? But we have secluded ourselves from these opportunities just because we have taught ourselves that it is not okay. It is not okay for us to create relationships with people from different hierarchies. It is not okay for us to interact with, now I'm coming from Thika, I'm going to talk to someone from Karen. Just you feel that friction that you have put within the limitation. Now those limitations with your mind create that friction even before that interaction happens, right? You're someone from Runda and you're now interacting with someone from Embakasi or someone, and you just feel like you create those self-limiting beliefs in your head, and that now creates that friction, and that in itself has really limited us from having quality friendships and platonic relationships and even romantic relationships with people from different hierarchies who would really bring a lot of value into our lives and who would also get a lot of value from our lives as well, right? So this is now a point for us to eliminate that this big problem of making friendships has originated from us thinking that we only need to make friends with people who can relate to our lives and who we can relate to. And now we have to give ourselves the grace to accept friendships and relationships from people of different hierarchies. And that is okay. And there's so much that you are learning from that, right? So here's an example. So say in campus, you spend let's say 4 years in campus, right? If you are to spend 4 years in campus and you joined campus in first year, let's give two scenarios. So there's this first scenario of someone who goes to campus, makes friends with their classmates. So they are always out every weekend. That is their norm. You go out, you have fun, you get inebriated, just get sloshed, and then you go back home, and then you repeat week after week after week after week. This has become your culture. You go out, you have fun, you come back. You go out, you have fun, you come back. You go out, you have fun, you come back. And there's nothing that is changing. There's nothing that is being elevated. Maybe the places that you're going to are changing, but there's no major elevation that is happening within the quality of your lives, right? And then think about it now this way. Say now there's another first year who in the first aspect, just to go back just before going to the second example. In the first example, this is now someone who has lived their life like this. From first year to fourth year, they are graduating, same set of friends, same set of situations, same set of habits. You go out, you have fun, you come back. You go out, you have fun, you come back. You go out, you have fun, you come back. From first year to fourth year, you're done, you graduate, you go to work, you find another set of friends, you get into the same habits. Go out, have fun, come back on Monday. Work till Friday. Go out, have fun, come back on Monday. Work till Friday. Now that is now the cycle of life. The cycle of life. That has become the cycle of life for scenario number one. Now let's look at scenario number two. This is someone who has gotten into campus. They've made their friends in their classes, but they have not confined their lives to their classes. So maybe this is someone who has dynamic habits. Maybe they go to the gym. They go to the gym let's say twice every week or 3 times every week. And at the gym, they constantly meet different people, right? They meet different people at the gym. And this is something that you're going to notice, that there are certain spaces that have been created where people from different hierarchies get to meet and engage with each other, such as the gym, such as church or religious places, such as networking events. There are certain spaces where people from different hierarchies now meet and relate, right? So a gym is one of the spaces where you might find people from different hierarchies meeting. So this is a first year who has gone to the gym. This is now their habit. They're just like, me, I'm just going here for fitness. And they go there, they, after 1 month at the gym, they make a new set of friends. This new set of friends introduce them to a different quality of life, because at the gym they're meeting people who are prioritizing their life, they are prioritizing their health, they are prioritizing their fitness, they are prioritizing the long-term vision and the compounding interest of their activities and their actions today to compound positively in the future, right? So they're working out today so that they can be healthier fathers, they can be healthier mothers, they can be healthier aunts and sisters and nephews and cousins and all that. They can just live a healthier life in the future, right? Imagine now this first year in scenario 2 has been introduced to this new environment where he or she is meeting new people from different hierarchies, and they're getting to solidify a certain sense of relationship. And there's a certain quality within this new space and this new level of hierarchy where these are people who, number one, treasure health, number two, prioritize their well-being, number three, these are people who have been able to grow their discipline enough to come regularly to the gym. So think about how this discipline has also been shared across other channels of their lives within their hierarchy. So if they are disciplined enough to come to the gym, maybe they are disciplined enough to have a routine at work, which is productive. They are disciplined enough to have a work-life balance. They are disciplined enough to have like a certain limit, to know their limits, to know their boundaries, and either to push forward or to enforce them when whatever would be breaking through would be negative for them, right? So this is now first year who's been introduced to these people. They are working class people, there are people who have companies, there are people who have businesses, there are people who are in the entrepreneurship level. There are also people who are just, even they haven't joined university yet, who are still coming to the gym because they want to build their health, right? So now this person from scenario 2 has been introduced to people who say are living a different type of life, a different quality of life. And now he's interacting, or she's interacting with them, and she's getting, or he's getting more value and information and guidance from people from different hierarchies. Imagine the level of networks that this person will have built within 4 years. Imagine the level of value that this person will have accumulated within those 4 years. Imagine the level of input, the level of opportunities, the type of opportunities, the number of opportunities that this person will have gained access to just by going to the gym and making friendships with these people from a different hierarchy for 4 good years. So by the time graduation is coming on, scenario number 1, the person from scenario number 1 might have, say, had fun for 4 years, and they have the same set of friends, they have the same situation, they are at the same level in life. And then the scenario number 2, someone who, since they started gymming, now they are coming to the end of their 4 years in university, they are going towards graduation. Now they've introduced themselves to different people, different opportunities, different mindsets, different value additions in their lives. Now they know an entrepreneur from somewhere. Now they know a business person from somewhere. Now they know an auditor from somewhere. Now they know an accountant from somewhere. Now they're getting even opportunities being provided to them just because they have access to these people. They have access to these networks. They have grown their networks. They have grown their value. They have grown their mindset. They have grown their habits. And now they have people who they can go to for knowledge, wisdom, and so many other valuable inputs. Think about that. Will these two people be at the same state of mind and life by the time they graduate? By the end of those 4 years, will these two people from these two scenarios be at the same level in life? I don't think so. Even think about someone who, say, now you've gone into the adulting life. You're just, say, 24, 25. For the next 5 years, you want to have fun, and you want to live life, right? And there's scenario one who has decided that, you know what, maybe it's going to be easy. I'm just going to go out every day or every weekend, have fun with my friends, maybe grab a bottle or something, have fun, and then go back home. Or I'm going to go out with my loved one, we're just going to go have fun and come back home, right? That is our norm. Every weekend, every month, every year for 5 years, from 25 to 30, right? Think about someone else who decides that now in scenario number two, that instead of me wasting this money on, say, habits that are not building me, how about I take a small piece, just I save a small amount of that sherehe going money and invest it in, let's say, a skill that will help me, like, I don't know, golf. It's fun, it's a good skill. I go and invest in golf. And this is a perspective that I had again from Manto KE by Oscar D. Come. Now you've decided that you want to take a small amount of what you've been spending on unnecessary expenditures and put that in, say, learning golf. So you're now not going to Airbnbs every 2 weeks. You're going maybe once a month, but this other money, you're saving it and you're investing it into learning golf. Think about, now you're going into golf. Think about your experience learning golf and the people you'll network with within the golf course. Think about how that will compound over 5 years. So from 25, there's someone who said, I've just gotten my first job. I want to save like a small amount of money and invest it into this skill, golfing skills, for the next 5 years. And there's someone else who has said, my disposable income has grown. Tunatoanga hii kitu kama mwizi wa kibeti. We're going to have fun like nobody. We are going to cutter this water until Moses is shook. Right? By the end of 5 years, what will be the compounding interest of their activities and their actions? One, we'll have a liver that is just like, woo, we are done. Our best years are behind us. And for someone else, they'll have, say, grown within their body, their physique. Obviously, they're investing in a skill that is physical, so they're gaining some physical advantages, as well as their networks. They're gaining value based on the people that they're interacting with. Now you're interacting with someone who's an MP somewhere. Now you're interacting with someone who's a manager somewhere. Now you're interacting with someone who's a life coach somewhere. Now you're interacting with someone who's a fitness coach somewhere. Now you're interacting with someone who's a CEO somewhere. Now you're interacting with someone who is aspiring to be an MCA somewhere within that golf course. Now think about the people that this person will have interacted with within 5 years. By the time they are 30, what will be the quality of their networks? As compared to this other person who has just decided that, you know what, we'll just let life go. However it comes is how I'll take it. Plus a cocktail. Right? And that is now the rest of you now, that will be my next 5 years, right? Think about those two scenarios and think about now, what is the opportunity cost of you deciding to go to scenario one as compared to scenario two? If you're in scenario, and don't be lied to that, oh, you know what, me, I'm good on my own. We are pack animals, or in this modern age, we are relational animals. A single 200 years ago, a single person in the savannah was a dead person. So we have been cultured for hundreds of years, if not millions of, hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years, to exist in communities, to exist in packs. We are pack animals. We are relational beings. So the quality of the relationships that we have with the people around us really determine the quality of the lives that we live. So think about now scenario one, where you have friends who just take you out every single day, friends from the same hierarchy. And scenario two, where you have friendships with people from different hierarchies, and now you're getting to learn from people who have gone in front of you, people who have achieved what you want to achieve, people who have seen life from so many different perspectives, people who have lived life twice the amount of life that you've lived, 3 times the amount of time that you've existed for. Now you're learning from these people and you're capturing their lessons and their inputs and value points, right? And you're now putting that and see, okay, so this is positive, let me try and see how I can apply it into my life. Oh, so discipline, coming to the gym 3 times a week is good. Okay, I'll install that. Okay, next, so can we put this discipline in, say, waking up? So if I wake up before 8 a.m, that's good for me, I can structure my day. Fine, I'm going to implement that in my life, right? As compared to someone who is in scenario 1, who's like, oh my god, it's 9 a.m, I have a major hangover. How about you guys? Me, I'm sleeping till 2, right? So now you see that the quality of relationships that you have in your life really determines the quality of life that you have. It's very important. The quality of relationships that you have in your life determines the quality of your life. This is a quote by Esther Perel. So it's very important for us to now understand that, first of all, we have always limited ourselves from creating friendships with people from different hierarchies, right? And that in itself has brought about a certain limitation to different value additions in our life. So we have constricted ourselves from getting advice, from getting value, from getting knowledge, from getting access, from getting opportunities, just because we have confined ourselves to this particular hierarchies that we are in, or this hierarchy that you are in. So now that you've deciphered that and we've unpacked that and you've said that, okay, so now it would be important for us, or we've seen now it would be important for us to have friendships and relationships with people from different hierarchies, then what will help us determine the quality of people that we actually befriend? And here's the golden rule. Make friends with people who want the best for you. It's as simple as that. Make friends with people who want the best for you. That's it. There are people who you're going to find who constantly want the best for you. That can be someone from your hierarchy or someone from a different hierarchy. So it can be your classmate, it can be your best friend, it can be someone who you're on the same hierarchy. It can also be your boss, it can also be your CEO, it can be someone who maybe works where you work, but it is from maybe, let's say, a different hierarchy. And this is someone who genuinely just wants the best for you, right? And that is what you're going to learn, that some of these successful people, actually most of them, might want to culture, might want to train, might want to share their knowledge with people who might be interested in it. So then it's very important for you to understand that there's value that you could get from a certain level of friendships from different hierarchies as well as from your hierarchy. But the thing is, you need to find people who want the best for you. People who are constantly telling you, is what you're doing good for you? Is what you're doing compounding positively in the future? The habits that you have, the identities that you own, the awareness that you harbor, is it helping you become a better person in the future? These are people who want the best for you. Most of the times it can be your parents. Sometimes it might not be, but still most of the times your parents might fit that role. Sometimes it might be your siblings and your people who your relatives. Sometimes it might be, sometimes it might not be, depends on the situation. But basically it can be people that you work with, people that you meet within these social spaces that now congregate people from different hierarchies, such as church, such as gym, such as clubs, and communities and societies, where you get to interact with people from different hierarchies. The most important thing is make friends with people who want the best for you. That's it. That's the golden rule. Okay? So now that we've been able to see, number one, the opportunity cost of bad friendships, number two, hierarchies, number three, getting friends from different hierarchies, and number four, what should be the determining factor when getting friends or befriending people from different hierarchies. Now it's important for us to see what are some of the things that you can do in order to create positive and better friendships. So what can you do to build better friendships? And I have 4 points here. The first point is position yourself better. Position yourself better. If you want to make, if you want to say get to install better habits, then go to spaces where the habit you want to install is the norm. You get? So if you want to pray more, if you want to become a more prayerful person, then go to church where being a prayerful person is the norm. Go to meetings, to devotional meetings where being a prayerful person is the norm. If you want to take on fitness, then go to spaces where going to the gym or being fit or doing yoga or running or going for a walk or doing fitness activities is actually a norm. So join a traveler group, for example, where you can go for hikes and all that. Join a gym group where you can go for fitness exercises every day. Join a yoga group where you can be able to do yoga exercises every so frequently. So if you want to improve a habit, first of all, position yourself where that habit is a norm. So in order for you now to build better networks, for you to elevate the quality of your life, position yourself where that is what people prioritize as the norm. You get? So position yourself better. If it's going to church that will help you network with people from different hierarchies and people who want the best for you, go to church. If going to, say, devotional meetings will help you become a prayerful person, go to those prayerful devotional meetings. If it's going to, say, the fitness spaces that will help you to meet people from this particular space, befriend them, and also install the habit of being more intentional with your fitness and health, then go to those spaces. But position yourself better. You're not just going to sit at home and dream your friendships into existence. Manifestation is important, but you have to take the action to manifest. So position yourself in better spaces. Go to those book clubs, go to those networking meetings, go to those church events, go to those social events, go to those business events, attend those webinars, those free webinars that you see online. Get yourself into those spaces where you would meet people who would elevate your life, right? If it's career-wise, go to those networking meetings, go to those launches, go to those seminars, attend those webinars, and you're going to find that now you're interacting with people from different spaces. Put yourself in that space. Those people are not going to come to you, you're going to go to them. So go to that golf club, go to that Toastmasters forum, go to that entrepreneurs forum, go to that webinar, go to that event, learn from that and engage with other people. That is the first value point for building better friendships. Position yourself better. Number two, let me just get this on. Sorry. Number two, find people who want the best for you. So find people who prioritize the best, who are able to call you out whenever you're doing something that is not compounding positively for you in the future. And also some people who can advise you positively and pour positively into your cup. So look for people, number one, who pour into you, and number two, whatever they pour into you is something that is elevating you, not something that is detrimental. Something that is detrimental to your life. So get people who want the best for you, people who want good things for you, people who want to see you win, people who want to see you succeed, people who want to help you, people who want to elevate you. Okay, find and build friendships with people who want the best for you. Number three, set up, communicate, and enforce boundaries. God, this is a whole episode on its own, boundaries. But essentially, it's very important for you, number one, to know your limits. Know your limits. You might have people who constantly want you to be out and about, and you're an indoor person. Understand when your social battery is done and when you need to go back and recharge on your own or however you recharge. Okay? Understand things that are off limits. For example, do not have friends who say badmouth your family, or who badmouth people who you value or feel are important to you, or who are disrespectful, right? Or people who are, say, I don't know, that there are different negative attributes that you might be able to see, and you might be able to say for yourself that this is my limit. I cannot be with someone who is disrespectful. I cannot be someone who does not value my time. I cannot be with someone who does not see that I am drained. My social battery is drained. And as much as you might want me to be out with you at this event, I'm not in the capacity to handle that interaction at this time and space. Okay, so it's very important for you to know where your boundaries and limits lie. Communicate that, because then again, some of us know, we know that you're not going to talk about my siblings like that and I'm okay with it. You're not going to talk about my body like that and I'm okay with it. You're not going to talk about my looks or my intelligence or my existence like that and I'm okay with it. Okay, so you know your boundaries but you don't communicate them, so this other person doesn't even know that they are crossing that boundary. So it's very important for you to communicate and to say, for example, for me, I don't really like it when you say ABCD. It makes me feel this way and this makes me react in this way. So I would really appreciate that if it comes to this, please cut it off here. If you can be able to limit it to this, that I'm okay with. But if you bridge, if you cross this boundary, then this is the action that I'm going to take. Either I'm going to cut you off, either I'm going to just take switch off and take some time to myself, either I'm going to just need time to process this, or either I'm just going to not tolerate that. Okay, so it's very important for you to know your boundaries, communicate them, and enforce them. Now you might be at a space where you know where your limit is, you have communicated it, but this person is still trespassing. Then you need to enforce your boundaries. Otherwise, people will just see that this guy has boundaries, but they are just like, it's a stepping stone. You just pass and go, and yeah, there's nothing that is going to happen. So they're going to cross that boundary just because they can. So it's very important for you to enforce those boundaries, okay? And lastly, tip number 4, be more responsible. Be more responsible in your friendships. God, there's someone who told me about their definition of responsibility that has changed my life since I had it. So for them, they told me that for them, responsibility means taking charge. So if we call ourselves best friends, and we haven't met for a year, I'm not going to sit back and say, oh, so my best friend hasn't called me for a year. You know what? Watch I kai. No, I'm going to say that, oh, my best friend hasn't called me in a year. That's a long time. I should actually take the responsibility to talk to them or to call them. I should take the responsibility to engage with them if they have not done that with me. Okay. So this in itself really changed the way that I see responsibility as actions that I need to take, even if they are for the betterment of the both of us, even if it was not my chore, even if it was not my particular responsibility to do that, I'm still going to do it because it's going to be better for both of us. Okay, so it's very important for you, number 1, to allocate more time to your friendships. Not just wait for, oh, I'm going to see when I can get some free time so that we can build this friendship. Apana. If it's a friendship that matters to you, and a friendship that matters to you, I had someone say this, you're going to get to a certain point in your life where you're going to realize that the people who will go to your eulogy are more important than the people who will go into your CV. So nurture the relationships with the people who will go into your eulogy as compared to the people who go into your CV, okay? So nurture and grow these relationships. And how do you do that? By investing more time. Invest time into those people. And if there's something that has happened within this COVID period and Corona season, is that relationships have been accelerated. So those relationships that you felt that I don't even know why I'm still here, you've gotten out of them. Those relationships that you've been like, I really feel something here, so we just do something, you've gotten into those relationships. Those friendships that you knew were very important to your support system, and you're also going to talk about this in another episode, the importance of friendships to our support system, because sometimes you just need someone who just tells you, hey man, you're being too hard on yourself, take it easy. Or you're doing really well, take time to recognize that. Or things are going really well, just take time to be grateful. You're moving so fast, just slow down, pace yourself, take time to breathe in, to be where your feet are, take time to just stand still, breathe in the air, look around, and be present where you are, be where your feet are. So essentially, sometimes we need that from other people, even from different perspectives and experiences, we can get advice and knowledge about where we're going and where we want to get to, right? So it's very important for us to, number one, know which are these important relationships to us, and number two, create time for them. Intentionally create time for them. Otherwise, you might be so bombarded with a busy schedule that you never even. When was the last time you met with your best friend and just had like a good conversation about what is going on in your life? When? How often do you do that? And do you intentionally allocate time for doing that? Be more responsible. Number two, invest in them. Invest in them. Do not just be one-sided within your friendships and relationships. Don't be just the taker, because this is one thing you're going to realize, that takers never stop taking, and they actually get better at taking, whereas givers get better at giving. So don't just be a taker, because again, givers do not like to be constantly in the presence of just people who take. Okay? So it's very important for you to be in a space where you're giving as well as taking. So this is a two-way street. I'm sharing, you're getting value from what I'm sharing, and I'm receiving, and I'm also getting value from what I'm getting. So invest in them. It can be investing in terms of advice, it can be investing in terms of gifts, it can be investing in terms of their love language, it can be investing in terms of giving them time and space, in terms of like they can come to you and just have like a rant, a whole hour rant, and you're just there and you're listening. You're giving them time to express themselves. You're giving them a space to be comfortable within their own skin and to share their own what they need to share. So they share their own experiences, they share their own perspectives, they share their own situations and stories, right? So give your friends time to feel seen, space to give your friends time to feel seen, a space to feel seen as well, and to feel heard. Sorry, I'm mixing this up. Give your friends time to feel seen, space no time to feel heard, space to feel seen, and an environment where they can be comfortable with you. Yeah, it took me a minute to get around that, but essentially everyone wants to be seen, heard, and appreciated. Do that for your friends. Appreciate them, whether it's in gifts, whether it's in time, whether it's in advice, whether it's in knowledge, whether it's in whatever you're learning and you're coming to share with them, whether it's in opportunities. Invest in your friendships. Don't be in one-sided relationships and friendships. Okay, also learn to give as well. And lastly, check on them as well. Some of our friends are really strong friends, but they are going through the pits, and we might not know because they are so used to embodying this perspective of them being a strong person. This is what they've been cultured into. So they don't know how to be vulnerable. They don't know how to be to just be open and just be raw. Okay, or maybe even they don't have a space to be that. Okay, so check on them constantly. Check up on them. What are they doing? How are they faring? How's life on their side, and how are they progressing as well? And lastly, create space for growth. Create space for growth. So there are friends who are growing into different seasons. There are friends who are coming out of different seasons. It's okay for you to create that space for them to just be themselves, to move out of whatever they're moving out of and to move into whatever they're moving into. And you're just there like just constantly maybe giving them psych. Okay, so you're either just motivating them, you can be speaking life into them, you can be pouring into their cup in different ways, you can be educating them from what you've learned, you can be exposing them to new opportunities, you can be telling them about new mindsets and new perspectives that you're having that will elevate their lives. You can be growing together, you can be sharing together. So just create spaces for growth within these particular friendships. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of today's episode, and I hope that you've been able to get something productive, something that can help you at least either create better friendships or create better value within the friendships that you're in. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Please like, share, and subscribe if you've enjoyed this particular episode. It's long, so it might be cut into two pieces. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch episode 1 and then part 1 and part 2. This is episode 3, where we are talking about the opportunity cost of bad friendships. So guys, if you're in a bad friendships, please, it's time for you to ask yourself, is me investing in this friendship 5 years, 10 years, 20 years going to compound positively for me? So get into friendships and relationships that compound positively for you in the future. And it's important for you to be able to choose and be with people who want the best for you. Okay? It's a wrap. Thank you very much. Have yourself a lovely, lovely time. And I'm out. Be kind, be compassionate, be loving. Ciao. Yes. Gonga hiyo kitu. Oh God. Leg day guy. Okay. Hi, Dad. Okay.